So content creation, wow, that word is big. And when Luke said, yeah, talk about content, I was like, all right, how do, where are people at with content? I guess like trying to tap in, I guess, to maybe some of your challenges and frustrations, and even just coming here this evening and chatting around with the table. It is one of those areas where people, I think, feel a lot of stress, a lot of uncertainty. It feels quite overwhelming. Then you're talking about a whole year next year of content, and it's like, where do I even start? Hopefully I'm resonating with you on some sort of level. That content does feel like a lot for a lot of people, and me included, to be honest, at times. Like, it's when you're wearing all of the hats in your business, and then you're trying to also wear that one. It's sometimes it feels like, where do you even start? And it doesn't help the fact that when we talk about content, we're talking about lots of different stuff. So, just in the digital marketing world, we talk about content in relation to blogs, we talk about content in relation to web content, Google ads, social copy, photography, videography, like we use this word very liberally, which makes that task, I think, feel even bigger. Again, it just like, where do I even start with all of this? So that's what I want to dig into tonight. I want to give you guys some ways that you can simplify and streamline, make your lives a little bit easier, some tips and tricks and tools that I think you'll find really applicable and useful as you sort of embark on content planning for your businesses. So yeah, and I think the first thing to kind of chat about and discuss is this idea of even content creation, and to kind of like maybe flip the mindset from being a place and a position where you kind of want to get things out there. So often when we sit down at our computer, it's like, all right, what am I going to say? Like, what am I going to tell people? I want to kind of flip that thinking from the get-go this evening and start to go, okay, well, how do I communicate better with people? How do I actually create a conversation? How do I open up a dialogue? Because that is the opportunity that we have with social media, and that's what LinkedIn especially is so great for. We can have a dialogue. And just in looking at it like that, we actually take away, I reckon, like 80% of our work. So when you stop thinking, what do I say, and start thinking, how do I create a conversation, that's what I want to sort of unpack with you this evening. How do I change the slides? Oh, okay. There we go. Technology. There we go. So that's me. That was another photo taken by Lauren. She's awesome. Where are you? She's there hiding. Big plug for Loz. Yeah, she does amazing work. So what we do is social media marketing. We work with small businesses across lots of different sectors, basically helping them to grow their businesses through social media strategies. And that looks different for every client that we work with, but in a nutshell, we manage their content, we manage their social ads, we do things like influencer marketing, we run competitions, we manage the whole kit and caboodle, and we have a lot of fun. So that's us in a nutshell. So I Googled this to find out what the biggest challenges are with content creation, and these were the top 5, which I can't actually read from this angle, but consistently publishing high quality content, and maybe just a show of hands for the ones that resonate with you. So this is all about like high quality content consistently. Who feels that one? Yeah, quite a few. Keeping on top of content creation, so that kind of like planning cycle. Yep. Understanding different buyer personas came up. Yeah, cool. producing content in suitable formats was another, yeah, people feel that. And cutting through the noise actually was an interesting one that sort of came up. Yeah, cool, all right. So yeah, that really interesting insights there, I think. And yeah, totally relevant and different for everyone in different points in time. I guess what we're going to look at tonight is some ways that will hopefully ease some of your pain in some of those areas. So we're going to look at what your audience wants. So we're going to start there. So maybe you have given this some thought, or maybe, you know, it's new to you. We're just going to have some time, I guess, to look at what essentially your audience wants, which we could honestly spend about 3 weeks looking at, but we're going to try and like just start to, I guess, again, get into that mind space. So that, because that should always be the starting point of any effective communication. We're also going to look at using audience feedback to improve engagement. So this is where we start to get into the how can we make this easier for ourselves? How can we make this more effective? How can we save time, produce better content? That's going to be the start of that. And then we're going to look at content repurposing. And I'm going to give you a time-saving hack at the end. So what does your audience want? So this was an interesting statistic. I thought 31% of people are logging onto social media more than 10 times a day. But so probably I fit into that category, but to be fair, I do work in this space. But yeah, you do have to ask the question, like, why? Like, why are people going to social media? What do they want? You know, what do they expect from the businesses they follow, the pages that they follow? So again, Google, you know, you can get some really interesting things, insights, but yeah, the top one is entertainment. So lots of people do jump onto social media to escape basically and to, you know, experience something other than their reality, to feel joy. The other big one that came up was around like emotional, kind of like just to feel, to experience something new. The community was a big one too, like a sense of belonging to, you know, something greater. To win, lots of people come to win, believe it or not. It's a big reason for people to jump on, and also to gain more knowledge. So again, that one probably relates more in, you know, to certain businesses and things than others, but you can probably start to see there, like, you know, for your own business, some of those will be more important than others. You know, for some of our clients, for example, especially say fashion, the entertainment factor is really important. And so it's that sense of like community and even that sense of like, and even content that's there for them to win. So, you know, like, that's certainly not the case for all of our clients. Like, for example, in the B2B space, it's very much about like knowledge, you know, like they're there to kind of learn and find new things. So you can probably start to see for your own business, some of those will be more important than others. So this is just sort of a snapshot into what does your audience want and expect when they're online? How can you meet their needs? But above all, and I think this is, you know, starting to get into that, I guess, really, you know, beyond the superficial. They want to be heard. Everyone wants to be heard. Everyone wants to feel like you've understood them. Everyone wants to feel as though you've listened and that they can really relate, I guess, to the content that you're sharing. And that applies to all businesses, no matter whether you're a B2B, whether you're B2C, to use a bit of jargon there, whether you're in fashion, whether you're in construction, whether you're in mining, you know, like this sense of feeling heard is super important. So if we can sort of tap into that, actually, we can seriously streamline how we create content, and we can make it so much more effective. We can start to see the results. So yeah, that's just, I guess, something to set the context, then we need to tune in better. That's what this is really all about. We need to find ways to listen harder, get more feedback, get more insights before we even start to write content. So here's some really simple ways to listen better to your audience and to show them that you're there to hear them, basically. So the first one is data, basically. So we would use things called audience insight. So you can look up, if you've got a website and you've got a bit of traffic going, you can use insights from your Google Analytics, for example. That will give you things like age, demographics, and geography, and even some interesting things like that. You can actually glean quite a bit just from some of that data alone, which can inform how you create content. But it's these next four that are sort of more interesting to me. So the second one is actually just ask a question. You know, what a powerful way to open up a conversation. It's how we do it every single day of our lives. But yet we so often forget to just start there on our social media. We always think that the onus is on us to come up with the interesting stuff and be the be all and end all, I guess, really. But yet, so much of starting a conversation is actually just inviting people to respond. Related to that, run a poll. So we're going to look at how you can do that on LinkedIn in just a moment. But all the social net channels actually have some sort of functionality of that kind. So, whether you're more familiar with Facebook or Instagram or whatever, like, this is a super powerful and super simple tool that you can use to get some data that you can then share back to your audience and show that you're listening. And then ask me anything. That's quite an interesting, if you just want to get like an open slider, I guess, of like to see what burning questions people have on their minds. This is a great way to just kind of like put it out there, see what you get back, see what the top questions are. And then, of course, invite. What is it? I've forgotten my last. Invite reviews. Yes, testimonials, reviews, all these kind of things. Also, excellent ways to get feedback. You can do that on your socials. Or you can do that just through email, like as a part of your kind of, day-to-day response from your clients. You can just invite, hey, how are we going in this particular area? Or would you like to fill out this form? You can do it any number of ways. These are all great ways to get insights that can inform how you create your content. And then you can share it back. So that's where that loop kind of kicks in. And if you do this, it's like seriously 80% of your content creation right there. Like it starts to make things way more efficient. So creating polls in LinkedIn. Who's used this before? Has anyone had a play? Cool. So you can have a look on your app while you're sitting at the tables right there, like while I'm chatting it through. But basically, jump into your profile, start to create a post. You'll see down the bottom there's a few options for what sort of post you're going to create. One of those is a poll. Basically just like you would run a poll on other in other ways, whether you've done SurveyMonkey is a popular one. Might be something you're more familiar with. Anyway, but so you set up the question. You've got obviously the different options there for the responses, and then you can set a time frame for how long that runs for, and then you can share that. So like you could use this in any number of ways. Here's some ideas if you are struggling a little bit. So for example, you could invite some feedback on a product or service that you're working on, whether it's in kind of the development stages or whether it's, you've been going for a while or whatever it might be. You can get some feedback on a product or service. You can ask them what their greatest challenge is. That's always a really insightful conversation starter. Which of the following features are the most valuable. Could be a really interesting angle to explore. Just to kind of get some feedback there around what matters to them really. And then it could be anything like, what's your dream future look like? There's so many different ways. They're just a handful of scenarios there that you could explore. And you can kind of see how, as you're getting this feedback back from your audiences, how that can then inform further content, So you could summarize, for example, the responses that you've got. You could do a little graph around that and kind of share back your thoughts on how that data set relates to things you've seen previously, or there's so many ways that you could use those insights. But more importantly, you're showing that you've listened. You've actually invited that feedback. You've opened up some communication, and you're showing that what they think matters. So such a good little trick. And yeah, again, you don't have to come up with all the ideas. That's the genius. It's sort of right there. And they're giving you the idea. So this is, it's an awesome little time-saving hack. I won't go into the insights too much, other than just to, I guess, let you know that side of things does exist in your social media. You can go back and kind of look at which posts historically have performed well and those sorts of things. That can also be a good way to get some insights. But yeah, I guess the gist of what I wanted to kind of get across there was like some of the most successful people I've known are the ones who do more listening than talking. And I think that kind of summarizes it, doesn't it? Like, the more we listen, and the less talking we do, we can actually be far more productive and more successful. So some ways that you can seek the feedback, whether it's through little diagrams in certain platforms like Instagram. You can kind of use stickers and things to even share your thoughts and whatnot. You probably could use that in LinkedIn too. Just occurred to me, but so it doesn't need to be boring. It doesn't need to be just text. You can use visuals to support it. In fact, I would encourage you to use visuals to support it. Seeking feedback can obviously be something that's also a little bit entertaining. And then sharing feedback, which is equally as important in it all. So for example, down there on the left, whether it's like, we started getting all these questions around this particular thing in our business. Here's our answer, almost like a sort of a frequently asked question scenario there. Or, hey, we found out by digging into our Google Analytics that these were the top recipes for 2021. There's a good one for you for the end of the year. Like, what's the top performing content on your website for the year? If you do blogs and things like that, share it back. Hey, this is our best blog. Like, you guys love this. Maybe just repurpose it or something, or rejig it a little bit to make it a little bit fresh. Or problem solution. Hey, you guys told us that your biggest problem that you had. Really? Okay. Thank you. Is X. So, here's some of the ways that we can help you guys with that, or something like that. So you can maybe start to see there how that simple scenario, starting with a poll, or inviting feedback, could then lead into content for you to use. Which leads us to this content repurposing, which sounds really technical, maybe, or even complicated, but basically it's just like recycling, if you like, or reusing content that you've had before and finding new ways to use it again. So I guess when you're looking at 2022, a great place to start would be what worked in 2021, and then revisit it, and then let's look at that for this year and how that can work in this new context. So it will save you time. It'll save you the headache of, again, needing to come up with all the ideas. It's not cheating. All writers do it. Believe it or not, we do it all the time. Because it's just, I guess the premise of it is pretty simple. Like if it's working, if it's worked before, if our audience liked it before, then we know it will probably work again. We'll just tweak it, we'll rebadge it, we'll make it like look better, or make it or add new things to it, or whatever it might be. But you don't need to reinvent the wheel. That's the beauty of all of this, It's like you actually don't need to always start from scratch. A lot of your work, you've probably got so much content there in front of you, whether it's on your website or even in like this presentation, for example. I'll probably use that again in some way. If you're doing podcasts, that's awesome content. Like you're probably producing loads of content all the time that just needs a little bit of repurposing. So maybe that kind of helps you in looking at this task of content creation in a new way, maybe a way that's less daunting, doesn't feel like you're starting from scratch all the time. It kind of maybe flips that mindset of you being the driver of conversation to kind of being more of a two-way dialogue, because you are opening it up for feedback initially and then going from there. But here's our 7-step repurposing hack. And it starts with a poll. So we'll often do this for clients, for example. We'll just kick off the month of content with a little poll. We'll be like, all right, what do you think about X, guys? And then we'll take all of that and then we'll turn that into a blog or some kind of article. So we just go, all right, brain dump, let's just whiz that out into some kind of like a piece, basically. It doesn't need to be neat. It doesn't need to be kind of it doesn't need to really be anything at that stage. It's just like, all right, let's do a big brain dump of ideas of what that is. And then from that, we will formalize that sometimes into an article for the website, but we'll usually get like the whole month of content really from that one piece. So it is, you can kind of repurpose and reuse and you can probably also see that you start to create a little bit of consistency on a month-to-month basis too, because kind of following a theme based around that poll. And then we'll work that into stories, which is, we talked about like resizing things. Canva is an excellent tool. If you haven't yet jumped on that, I can tell you it's the biggest time-saving hack you'll ever you'll have, basically. I don't think we even use Adobe anymore. I think I've even managed to convert our graphic designer, who was an Adobe purist, to Canva. But like you literally go, all right, square to, and then it does all the work in changing it to a story for you. It even does video now, so like there's a little tip for you. You can make videos so easily. And then you can share that to your socials. So just in that kind of process, I guess, if you like, or there's a good month's worth of content for you there. Like if you sat down and just kind of went, all right, I'm going to spend an hour on just repurposing that one thing, you would get a long way. And I think you'd feel like it was a little bit less onerous. I think you'd feel like it was a bit more efficient. But give it a go. See what you think. And let me know how you go with it. I'd love to hear if you've got thoughts. Anyone has tried things like this for themselves, failed, loved it. Any thoughts on content creation generally? Think it's overwhelming? Go for it.
I've just been giving some thought to next year and my content plan. And I've got a model that I'm cooking up in relation to my business. And it actually conveniently has 12 parts. So I was thinking, that's neat, 12 months, 12 parts. But I guess what I was wondering is that too long a period of time to keep people engaged?
Yeah.
Rachel, sorry, I'll just get you to repeat the question.
Sure. So essentially you're saying, yeah, should I plan for a whole 12 months or should I maybe break it up differently to that? Like, is it too long to look at 12 months? Yeah. Yeah, good question. So there's different, if you want to call it levels, say, of content planning. For any campaign that we do with a client, we usually look at 6 months. And we'll do sort of a high level kind of, okay, well, here's the key dates that we need to have in the calendar for that, whether it's like business milestones or product launches or things happening in the industry or whatever we might know are good things and topical things for that 6 months. But we won't necessarily write all of the content for the 6 months because things do so often change. Unless you're in a fabulous scenario where things stay relatively constant. I think probably month to month is generally what we'd go with normally. Sometimes even week to week, like if we're working with some clients where product turnover is like, lots of like every week, that'll be our cycle, but generally it's sort of like a month. And then we'll kind of regroup, we'll look at the results from that month. We'll go, okay, that worked. We'll do a little bit more of that for, the next month. So I guess it does probably help with that, feedback loop a little bit and kind of, making sure that the content that you're writing going forward is in line with what your audience is responding to and all those sorts of things. But but if it works for you, then the other way you can look at it is just have bulk content for the 12 months kind of banked and just be ready to use that at the appropriate time. So it's not necessarily going, I'm going to schedule all of that 12 months ahead of time. It's more like these could be awesome posts for the next 12 months and let's just kind of have them there and then maybe rejig them a little bit like when the time is right based on, what we're hearing back from our audiences as we go. Is that?
That's great. Can I just ask one?
Yeah, go for it.
So what I'm feeling, and I'm new to this whole social world, and struggling, I guess, with the authenticity of it, doesn't feel authentic to me. That's something that I'm really yearning for. I feel like if a month is the window that I'm creating a theme around, I feel like I'm like, throwing it at them, and it's like overkill. But maybe they're not seeing every post either, like, I mean, you've probably got some stats around how many posts are actually seen.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm going way over the top by repeating.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a couple of ways to look at that. As humans, we actually don't necessarily receive information all that well. We sometimes need it to be repeated before we take it in. So actually often repetition, obviously not saying the same thing literally every single time over and over again, but repetition can actually be really good. Having said that, you obviously there is a line too where you're probably just boring people. What platforms are you using?
Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So my business is fairly new, only about 4 months. So I'm testing all of them. And it's surprising actually what's working and what's not.
Yeah.
It's not what I thought.
What are you finding that LinkedIn's maybe better? Yeah. Facebook and Instagram are bloody hard. The algorithm is not kind, and basically they're paid channels these days. So, that doesn't surprise me at all. So I guess like just to look at LinkedIn, generally for our clients, we'll sort of be sharing through their business accounts maybe 2 to 3 times a week, and that's more than enough, because the way the LinkedIn algorithm works is quite different. It does show you content more, like not to labour on technical side of things, but yeah, the frequency, I guess, of it coming up in people's feeds will be higher. So yeah, probably 2 to 3 posts is more. And then of course you've got the opportunity to share it to your own personal accounts and things like that to kind of help get that amplification. Yeah, Facebook and Instagram are hard work.
Thank you.
I have a question off the back of that. So if you're repurposing your content and you plan out a month in advance or 2 months in advance, say there's like a trend that sporadically pops up, would it be best to just continue with your plan or to hop on that trend and try and hack the algorithm or try and boost your post, or is it best to stay consistent in what you're doing and just tweak it, or if that makes sense?
Yeah, so like talking about sort of tapping in, yeah, to things that are topical right now.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so for example, Facebook Meta, I don't know, is that too geeky? Yeah, so absolutely. When things are topical, that's a great time to jump on it. And I guess share your own perspectives and things to that topic. Yeah, so I guess, and so long as it's in line with your, this is I guess where we start to get into your brand and what your values are and all that side of thing. So long as your response to it's in line with those, there's no harm. Yeah, it won't affect your consistency and things like that. Yeah.
One more question. Sorry, Luke. I wanted to ask your opinion on sharing the same content, say the same post on all of your platforms. So say if you're like Cindy and you've got 3 different platforms, and say you do a post on Instagram and then that shares to Facebook and you can share it to LinkedIn as well.
Yeah.
What's your opinion of doing a post per social platform
Yeah.
or sharing one and across all 3?
Yeah, I think I'm all for it. Generally, we will tweak it slightly for the platform, usually at the point of scheduling though, so it doesn't like triple our workload at the planning stage. So yeah, we'll write based on what our priority platform is. So if it's LinkedIn, we'll always start with thinking, okay, this is going to be for LinkedIn, and then we'll tweak it for the other platforms based on what the content is. Even coming down to like on Instagram, for example, you kind of calls to action, you kind of link, so you've got to tweak it a little bit. Yeah, but yeah, like I'm again, efficiency. 9 times out of 10 you can use that same content on all channels, but yeah, you might have to tweak it a little bit, to make it more like say businessy, to dumb it down, or to make it more on Instagram. It might be taking out a bit more of that businessy kind of flavor from it. Yeah. Yes.
Hi, Rachel. I read something about it being better if you have a company page and then say some key managers that have their own personal page on LinkedIn, that it's better to put content through, say, the head of marketing than it is the company page. I've heard that before, and why would that be?
Sorry, say it again. So like so sharing from the business page to a personal account?
Suggesting that it's better to make it more personal from a person rather than the company.
Right.
And therefore, often that might be the marketing manager because the founder of the business may not be in business.
Yeah, there's pros and cons to whether you share through like a personal page, and then whether it's the marketing manager or the CEO or the whoever, or sharing through the business page. So kind of very long and pretty boring. Story short, your personal account's going to get way more reach. So that's a major opportunity. Having said that, your business page is still super important, because anyone that goes looking for your business, you want them to see content that's, reasonably recent, and that shows what you do and what you're about, and what you've been up to, and who your people are, and all that sort of stuff. So they're both important. I'd say probably, I hope I'm answering your question here, but probably a strategy that tackles both is the ideal way to go. So share through your business page, and then make sure that the right person in the team then shares it to their personal account.
But
So,
then there'll be duplicate followers on both, which then they're going to get up with the same roles or the same.
and LinkedIn's actually pretty good at handling that. It's I don't think I've actually ever seen that where it would duplicate one or the other. I think it would prioritize just based on that organic reach is exactly what it would be actually, because it's so low on the business page, but so much higher on your personal. And so hence why I guess using the two together is a great way to go. Yeah.